Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Language of Leadership. I'm your host, Mark Iorio. I've got my first boss coming out of college with me today. I'm so happy that Mike Miikurak is with us. Mike is the interim CEO of the Juvenile Welfare Board in Tampa, Florida. Mike, it's great to have you on the program.
I appreciate that. Thanks, Mark.
You're welcome. Great to see you. It's been a while, 45 years since we saw one another, but listen, one of the things that we talk about on Language of Leadership is how we lead, how we have, not just the language that we use, but the people in our lives who have been instrumental and how we've learned from them and then how that has translated into us leading others. You've had a remarkable career. When you and I met, we worked at Circle F Industries in Trenton. It became GTE Sylvania, and then you went on to a stellar career at Accenture and retired at a pretty young age. So good for you for doing so well. And here you are now as interim CEO of JWB Tampa. But talk a little bit about that career and what it's meant to you in growing up in the city of Trenton.
Yeah, I think you got to start from the beginning, Mark. I mean, I didn't grow up in the richest part of town, as you know. I grew up in South Trenton.
Yeah.
My home was 2 blocks away from the maximum security prison, known as Trenton State Prison. So clearly, I wasn't a rich kid, and I had to learn a lot along the way. But what was really great during that time is my parents were stellar. They were amazing people who really didn't let us know how poor we really were. But then we also had family members, uncles, aunts, people we called aunts and uncles, friends and neighbors that really took a hard liking to and really helped focus me on growing and developing a career, looking forward to the future. They helped me realize that I wasn't going to stay in South Trenton my life, and I was going to move on, and I had the opportunities to do that. So I moved forward. I continued on, went to college, worked at Circle F, finished most of my college time actually working for Circle F, and they paying for the school. Moving on to GTE. GTE bought Circle F. It's almost serendipitous, to be quite honest with you, because what it did was I moved from one place to another and moved forward. And every time I made a move, I moved forward. And one of the most important people, I think, in my entire life that helped me through this was a gentleman by the name of Mike Goldman. Mike, I think, is still probably a recruiter in Texas at this point. But what Mike did was every time I got frustrated, every time I thought that, just things weren't working quite the way I wanted them to and the like, Mike was always there to find the next round of things. And actually what wound up happening is I moved from GTE because at that point they wanted me to stay longer in St. Mary's, Pennsylvania, and that just wasn't my area or place I wanted to live. So I moved up into Danvers, Connecticut, and I was in a group called Strategic Services. And I did some strategy work for the board. And honestly, I was very honest with the board and explained to them that this company needed to get into the commercial business. They couldn't rely on government services for the length of it. Continued on for a long time because
Sure.
It was going to disappear. The board wasn't very happy with my presentation. They were happy with my presentation, not very happy with my message. And I got frustrated with that. And I went to Mike Goldman and said, "Hey, Mike, they're not listening. I don't know what to do." He goes, "Perfect timing. You need to go into consulting. Because when you go into consulting, you can tell everybody what you really think, and they can either listen or not listen, but they're going to pay you." So it was interesting. So we went on. So I went from there to Coopers & Lybrand, made manager at Coopers & Lybrand, decided to leave Coopers & Lybrand, went on to KPMG, became an international partner at KPMG. When as I reached that pinnacle of the career with KPMG, I got a call from Mike Goldman, said, "Hey, Anderson Consulting wants to talk to you."
Wow.
At that point, I was actually creating what were programs that were really, I will say, were the beginning of outsourcing, specifically in the area of supply chain logistics. And so I met with Accenture. They wouldn't bring me in as a partner because back then they didn't bring partners in, and that was Anderson Consulting. But I went there as a director and then made partner, and then luckily for me, it was Anderson and Arthur got into a disagreement as a partner of Anderson Consulting. We decided to split. We split, and I became a founding partner of Accenture.
Wow.
And that then allowed me to, at 49 and a half, retire.
Wow.
But remember, I was also traveling 6 days a week, so I got home enough time to unpack and repack to go to somewhere else in the world. My wife would always joke that she would always tell everybody I was in Chicago because she had no idea where I was.
That's pretty funny. But, along the way, I mean, you learned so much. You had obviously great mentors over the years, Mike Goldman being one of them. But I'm sure you were in opposite situations, Mike, where you had, you were in maybe I know this word is way overused these days, but sort of a toxic environment where you learned what not to do. And it brought you to a point in life where you were a partner at Accenture and able to retire at a young age. But even now, as the interim CEO of JWB Tampa, you have a really cool style of leading. So, Mike, I mean, a lot of what you've learned over the years, whether it was a toxic environment or a really positive environment, you've learned a lot about how to lead people. And I remember you alluding to a professor at Rider that taught you how to kind of go about things. You talk about the game that we have to play, and talk a little bit about that, because that is a great lesson for young people to learn.
Well, that's absolutely right. What the professor did was he actually told us at the first class we had with him. He said, if you learn anything out of this class, if you're going to gain anything from this, what you're going to have to learn is how to play the game. And that was not very clear to everybody that was in this classroom, because most of us were working, this was a night class, so most of us were working already. We really didn't understand. But what he wound up doing is he said, hey, pointed to one young lady in the classroom and he said, you're bringing donuts next class. Pointed to a young gentleman in the class and he said, and you're bringing coffee. It was like, what's that got to do with the class? You're going to learn how to play the game.
Yeah.
And we continued that discussion. So really what it allowed us to do is to understand that you're going to have to be able to be flexible. You're going to have to be able to understand issues. You're going to have to do things at times that you really don't want to do, but it's for the betterment of the organization. It's for the betterment of of you as a professional. It's the betterment of the people around you. And that really taught me a real sound lesson that you have to think more about the customer. You have to think more about the organization in which you're working with, and how do you motivate those people to be the best that they can be.
Yeah.
And I can bring that to what I'm doing today at JWB. I've been retired for 22 plus years before I took on this interim role. But I was a board member of JWB, appointed by the governor, well, actually appointed by two governors. And what I got to see from the board side were issues that we needed to deal with, things that we needed to address. So when I was asked to come on and take on the interim role, I already had a plan as what needed to change, what needed to be addressed or needed to be focused on to make this organization that much better. I've got a staff of 80 people that are just geniuses, no question whatsoever. They are the top of the top, the cream of the crop, people that are just so brilliant and understand the issues that are being dealt with for kids in our community and across the state, if not the country. What I did the first day I walked in is say to them, we're not a government service company anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
We're a retailer. And sure, like my professor, I got some crazy looks. But then I explained the reason for that. You're a retailer because we service those children at the beginning. They're our customer. But then we also provide funds to a group of organizations to do that service along with us. So they're our customers as well. And then the parents of those kids and the people around them are also our customers. So every conversation that you have with a funded provider or a non-funded provider should always never start with no. It always should start with, let's figure out how to get this done.
Yeah.
By doing it, that allows us to have a more flexible discussion, a more open and positive interaction, and it lets us think out of the box. We have to stay ahead of the game. We
Yep.
have to stay ahead of the issues that we face, and we have to understand we can fix those or we can work around it. We can't stop and just say no. And that really instilled the organization to really start to think about what the future is, how can we plan forward, and how we can better service our community.
Yep. Yep. You know, it's interesting. You know, when you and I first reconnected about after you got the interim CEO job at JWB Tampa, I didn't know what JWB did. I had no idea what the Juvenile Welfare Board of Tampa did. So do us a favor, do the audience a favor, Mike, just kind of explain what the role of the organization is, because
Sure.
the whole idea of retail, being a retailer versus a government agency, is so critical to how you're helping the community and children especially.
Well, I'll start you historically.
Yeah.
This organization was developed back in the 1945, 1946.
Yep.
During World War II. There are a group of people in Pinellas County, and by the way, it's JWB Pinellas. I would have some issues. I think I've had some people's issues if you called it Tampa, but it was developed in Pinellas County, and this group of people that got together weren't very friendly to each other. Most of them didn't even know each other at the time, but they had one core value, one core thing that they looked at, and that was, how do we protect the children of our community? Back then, a foster child could have been in a jail somewhere.
Yeah.
Would have been, that wasn't uncommon. So they created this organization to support the children of the community. But then they did one more thing, which was incredibly brilliant, and that was they took it to legislation, and they had a law passed that created a special district. This JWB Pinellas County is the first in the country to ever have been created to support the welfare of children.
Wow.
And what it's focused to do is to really look at education, food, nurturing, health, mental health, health and awareness, in areas at which autism is a new area that we're focusing on as well.
Yeah.
So we're there to help the community move forward, help children integrate into the community, but also allowing them to be whoever they want to be.
Yeah.
That's our goal. That's our objective. That's why we became a retailer versus a government service group.
Of course.
Because we're getting paid by taxpayers. Our funds are taxpayer dollars. If that ever went away, we have to figure out how we continue to do this. And we are. We're looking at those things. As the governor just is looking at property taxes and adjustment. So we are. Do I expect that it will happen, that it'll go away? No, but there surely could be adjustments. It's got a $156 million budget.
Wow.
That we use and ensure that we're using taxpayer dollars effectively, and we're adding value. For every dollar that we spend, we want a six-fold return. And we monitor and measure that to ensure that these children are getting the best, highest quality of service, the best value, and that they can, again, be who they want to be.
Mike, that is such a great, noble cause, and I think about this. And I'm sorry for calling it JWB Tampa. It's JWB Pinellas County, but it's interesting when you look at this, and I know you've looked into this being sort of a template for other parts of the country. I mean, we're at a point in time in our history, in this country especially, where children are really rudderless in many ways. They're not guided the way we were guided when we were growing up, and unfortunately, a lot of them are guided by social media. There's a lot of bullying going on. There's certainly a lot of drugs out there and a lot of things that they can get into. But JWB Pinellas County has done a remarkable job in building platform for children to, what did you say a minute ago, do what they're capable of doing. And you know, a lot of times they don't hear that. So is there a possibility that this could grow and be used as a template across the United States?
We would love that to happen. And again, JWB has been a leader for 80 years, and we've been very focused on the next generation. In fact, we're getting ready for a new strategy, which actually helped me a lot part of the reason why I wanted to be the interim, and hopefully maybe in the future the continue to be the CEO.
Yeah.
That's up to the board. But we are unique. We have programs that are not done anywhere else, but can be. It's funded by taxpayer dollars. So once they're created and developed, they're available. They're open to the public. We have programs, like example, Sleep Baby Safely is one, where it's really very simply teaches parents how to ensure that a child, when they're born, they have a safe place to sleep. They're not sleeping next to a parent. They're not sleeping next to a guardian. They're not being rolled on top of and suffocated along the way.
Yeah.
So we make sure they have cribs. We make sure we train the parents and the people around them. We have a program called Turbo Babies. Turbo Babies is my favorite because it starts from 0 to 3. And it starts to help parents, guardians, family members, neighbors to really focus in on how do I nurture that child. When you think about a baby's brain from 0 to 3, during that period of time, 80% of their brain is developed. 80%.
Wow.
So as you think about what happens during that, we used to say it was like a sponge. They were like sponges. No, they're not. They're like supercomputers. They're popping new thoughts in their mind. They're in milliseconds, things are changing in their mind. They're looking at colors. They're listening to words. They're looking at the environment around them. They need to be nurtured. They need to be felt. They need a sense of belonging to help create them, to help create the position for them to move forward. What we're finding out by this program, it has made amazing impacts on children in prep for VPK into kindergarten and then on. We spend millions of dollars trying to get children at grade level reading. But what we're finding now is that with Turbo Babies, we're actually going to reduce that amount of money that we spend.
Wow.
Because the child is already reading at 3 and moving forward.
Right.
They're able to accomplish. But you know what the really best part about that program is? The baby doesn't know who they are, where they came from, are they rich, are they poor, what color they might be, what religion they might be. They don't know any of those things. So if we can break down those social barriers at the same time and really create a nurturing environment for that child,
Yep.
when the social impacts begun to hit them, they're already prepared.
Absolutely.
And ready to move forward.
Absolutely. Mike, we're going to have to take a quick commercial break here. We'll be right back. Folks, don't go away. We've got more with Mike Miikurak, interim CEO of JWB Pinellas County, right after this message. We'll be right back.
I love that we both got an awesome network and save money doing it.
I know, $25. I love that it's guaranteed for 3 years.
Hey, we're sitting on a sign here.
Switch and get Welcome Unlimited for $25 a line, guaranteed for 3 years. Verizon.
Welcome back to Language of Leadership. I'm your host, Mark Iorio. I've got Mike Miikurak with me today. Mike is the interim CEO of JWB, that used to be called Juvenile Welfare Board of Pinellas County, Florida. It's great to have you on the program, Mike. And we were talking about, the template that JWB Pinellas County has basically built over the last 80 years. And the work that it's doing. You were talking about Turbo Babies. I love this program because I think a lot of times, we have a program right here in Trenton called the Trenton Literacy Movement. And one of the things that I do is I have a nonprofit that we run up here where we collect computers, and we work with 50 different nonprofits in the community, the regional community, where we give out laptops and desktops to students and families and so on. And we've given away 4,500 over the last decade. But we work very closely with Trenton Literacy Movement. One of the things that we find is that if they're not reading, these kids are not reading by third grade, Mike, they're lost, they're gone. I mean, you lose them in fourth or fifth grade. And, you know, with Turbo Babies and the other programs that you have at JWB Pinellas County, these kids are learning at a much younger age. You talk about the first 1,000 hours, right? Isn't that one of the statistics? Yeah. Talk a little bit about that. It was really impactful.
Again, the first 1,000, the first 1,000 days.
Days, yeah, the first 1,000 days. Yeah, I'm sorry.
But the first 1,000 days of a baby's life, their brain is just exploding. It's growing. It's developing. And think about this. You talk about using computers. Most parents today are actually with that baby or playing with games, online games,
right? Things
that they can do. Not a lot of stand holding hands and laughing and talking and doing that. That's the difference. Turbo Babies requires you to do that. It gives you opportunities. In fact, you can feel free to just have your friends and others look at turbobabies.com, and it will give you guidance. We actually, for all the parents and people that we give out bags with toys and instructions on how to work with your baby. In fact, how to have fun with your baby while you're changing it.
That's great.
These are just games and things you can play with a child to instill their growth and development while instilling that belonging and loving, nurturing feeling. And by doing that, now the child is perking up. Now the child feels that love and that sense of belonging that allows it to grow exponentially.
Yeah.
Every child's going to be playing with technology. We're past the stage of just having zero technology in anyone's hands like we didn't have. We didn't have phones. We didn't have any of those things back then.
Yep.
But now they do. And a baby, if you go out to dinner and see how many families and parents have an iPad or some type of touchpad that the child's playing with because that's the only way to keep them quiet while you're having dinner. But you have to integrate technology into this program. So you have to integrate the interactions into this program, and you've got to, again, be a parent. Yeah. Be somebody that's there. Fatherhood, that's another program in which we extend with this as well. Unfortunately, across the country and in Pinellas County as well, fathers aren't fathers. Fathers aren't there as much as they could be, or should be. And so we're working with fathers and other organizations to create a fatherhood collaborative, to get fathers involved in their child's life, to get fathers to be part of and understand how they can help create that and help mold that new human being.
Yeah.
We've got other programs in mental health areas. So we're really working and trying to use Turbo Babies to help do that, is help families identify if a child's on the spectrum earlier than not, because the longer they're on the spectrum and not diagnosed with it, the harder it becomes to help them. And clearly, we're helping parents understand that autism is not a disease. It's really just happens to be a mental state.
Right.
And the more you can work with that child, and I always use the example, Elon Musk is on the spectrum.
Yeah.
Richest man in the world.
Yeah.
He's on the spectrum. Yet he was able to, with help and support, to become the richest man in the world.
Yeah.
Any child can do that.
Absolutely.
We don't know what's going on in that brain during those periods of times. But I got to tell you, it could be mathematics. It could be something that we would never even understand. But let's nurture and develop that for that child to have the opportunities to be who they want to be.
Yeah, you had mentioned a couple of minutes ago that you measure things, you have metrics and so on, and I'm sitting here thinking about the fact that you've done this for 80 plus years, and what's interesting to me, Mike, is the fact that you must have incredible testimonies of people who have gone through the program and have really benefited from the program, and they've become brand ambassadors for JWB Pinellas County. Their lives have been changed as a result of working in a program like this. So talk a little bit about that, because there's nothing more powerful than word of mouth ambassadorship when you're talking about certain programs, or any brand really for that matter.
Well, and what we've done is we've created neighborhood family centers. We've created community organizations that are made up of a lot of people that you just described, that are willing to step up and work with others to help them better understand how to nurture and develop, how to work with children to ensure that they're getting all the value that we can. We're locked with the school system, and we work very closely with the school system to provide educational support. But we also work with organizations like the St. P. Free Clinic and Feeding Tampa Bay as two other examples, that are programs that are nurturing or are providing food, but they're providing food in a manner that allows you to nurture and develop. So for example, they both have kitchens that are there as well. They have little grocery stores that have been set up within that. They're a non-for-profit, so people who need food can go into these grocery stores and make sure that they have formula, make sure they have food for their families and the like. And if they feel that they want to do something, if they have any funds at all, they can just give that or take it for free. But it allows them to feel like they're at least trying and that they're really providing and helping their families and the children around them.
That's remarkable.
But they also have programs where they teach you how to cook, how to become a chef, how to become a short order cook or the like, that you can get a job. And that's the other part of where JWB needs to continue to focus on. We've spent a lot of time focusing on 0 to 3 early stages, try to be preventative. But we also, our programs reach from 0 to 17.
Wow.
So we're really starting to, as part of our strategic plan that we'll be presenting to the board, is we need to start to think about how do we help train? How do we help develop children for job opportunities going forward? I think we need to start that in middle school.
Yeah.
I think we need to bring back a lot of the programs that we may have once had when we were kids, but even extend them even more because of technology.
Yeah, I love that.
So, part of what I talk about with people is, think about this. With AI coming into play, middle management is going to deteriorate in the number of people, or it's going to just reduce in size.
Sure.
Because all the data collection and all that information that's required can be done through AI if the questions are asked properly, and upper management can make those decisions. But then what happens to that workforce that's sitting in the middle? The one thing that AI can do is provide all that data and information, but AI can't turn a wrench. AI can't connect an electrical circuit.
Exactly.
AI can't work. AI, not today anyway, or even robotics aren't going to fully manage your repairs on your cars or your air conditioning. And especially if you think about Florida. And I would ask people is, if your air conditioner goes down, what do? I call a rep. Okay, do you argue with the rep as to how much you're going to pay them? No, I need air conditioning, so I pay them for what they're worth.
Right.
And so these people can make a really good salary, a really good living out of working with your hands.
Yep.
Building, there's growth going on here. Become a carpenter, become a construction worker, become an electrician, become a plumber. These are all jobs that in the past decade were somewhat frowned upon. But in reality today, they're going to be the most important jobs out there.
Absolutely.
So we want to be able to help kids have the opportunities that if they don't want to go to college and they're not interested in, they're interested in working with their hands, we can help them do that. And that's where JWB can't be the funder for all these things, but we can be the integrator. We can be the thought leader. We can be the organization that brings organizations together to create these opportunities. One of the things JWB in the 80 years was really developed to support non-for-profit organizations. But let me give you an example. In the area of mental health, there aren't enough non-for-profit organizations out there. So we created programs to work with for-profit organizations. I've gotten the board to agree to make adjustments to our policies to allow us to be more flexible to work with for-profit organizations, the way we fund things, the way we work with them.
Yep.
And we have a program that's in North County right now that the Florida Chamber is just ecstatic over the work that they're doing, and it's a for-profit.
I can't thank you enough. I mean, this has been so remarkable. And I have to tell you that I can't believe that JWB is doing the work that they're doing. I can't thank you enough for spending the time with me today on Language of Leadership. Folks, Mike, try to get us to get in touch with you. How do you do that?
It's MIKURAK at jwbpinellas.org.
Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you next time. Have a great week.